This is the one we've all been waiting for. We're going to be processing Jeff Williams' super rich sample bags that he sent up from Nevada on a collab that we did here a few weeks ago. So let's dig into these. I'm looking for specimen gold, I'm looking for visible gold, and then all the fines and stuff we're going to process through. So let's see what we can find in these bags. So the first thing I'm going to do is screen it through a 1/2-inch screen so we can get the coarse stuff on top, and we'll go through that and see if we can find any specimens. So here's a look at the oversized stuff, and this is where you're going to be looking for your specimen gold. See that right there? It's all gold sitting down in that little pocket. So it's working. I've got some specimens laid out here on this little table. I'm going to try and go over them with this White's metal detector. I feel like there's something right in there maybe. There's nothing screaming at me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this stuff and wash it in a little bit of water, get it wet, and then I'll just hand pick through it and see what I got. So I wanted to try and show you up close here some of the specimens I've been finding. There's gold, there's a big old chunk hanging off. There's some gold, there's a nice piece. This one's got some nice pieces in it. More gold, more gold. We got our stuff all wet here, and I'm gonna put the samples with gold in here and the rest in here that we can crush up later. But you can see the difference here when they're all wet. You can see them a whole lot better. See right there on my finger? There's gold all across there. That one's big enough. I'm actually gonna break that one up with a hammer. Well, I went through most of our bucket and I really didn't find much. There was a few here that had a little bit of gold. There we go. Down in there. That one's got some gold showing there. But there just wasn't anything as fantastic as the stuff I have in the pan that I showed you earlier. Well, these are most of the prime specimens we got out of Jeff's stuff. And stay tuned for a future video where I do some experiments on the best way to clean up some of these samples, get that gold nice and shiny, and get all that rust and discoloration off of there. We're going to take our samples here. I'm going to mix them together so the wet stuff goes in with the dry stuff, and hopefully that helps us kind of dry it all out. We're going to crush it down to about 1/4 inch minus through a jaw crusher, so then we can put it through a little grinder and get it all pulverized. Well, now we're going to use this little disc grinder, and this plate is stationary and this plate turns, and there's a little slot right there, and that's where all the stuff's going to come out. I'm going to feed it down through here. It's come out the bottom as powder into our catch basin there, aka trash can lid. All right, I'm just going to take, I don't know, there's a full handful. And let's do another one. Well, a smaller one. There we go. I'll pan that out and see what we got in there. The rest will run on the shaker table. All right, well, here is our pan of the 2 handfuls there, 1.5 handfuls. And look at that. So I've had a couple pans of this stuff now, and I've gotten maybe less googly-eyed about it, about all that yellow. But I actually have a little bit of a concern here, because so there's all our metallic gold pieces right up there in the corner. There's probably some down in here as well. But I have a concern that this is not actually gold. It looks like gold. It's dense, but I don't think it's as dense as gold. There's a little bit of orange. I've got a little microscope, so let's see if I can get the microscope set up, and we can look at this stuff down here and this stuff up here and see if we can tell the difference. Interesting. Well, we're looking down the microscope, and there's those 3 or 4 big blobs of gold. There's a huge one off to the right. And then all that other stuff isn't gold. It's some sort of other mineral that's obviously quite dense. So that is very interesting. We got fooled, Jeff. I thought all that yellow in the pan was gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a snuffer bottle, but I'm going to suck it all up, and we're going to cupel it all down to just pure precious metals. So I take the straw out of the snuffer bottle, I turn it over, get all the good stuff down the bottom, and then just leak it down into a pile in this shop towel. Man, look at it all. Man, I wish all that was gold. Now I take my towel here. Got all my gold down the bottom. Well, I got all my yellow stuff down the bottom. And I just make kind of a little packet out of it. And I squeeze as much water out as I can. And just get it as dry as possible. I just take my scissors. I cut off all the extra. And there's our little packet I'm going to put in the furnace with the cupel and a little bit of lead, and it'll get refined down to gold and silver. Cupel heating up there. I'm going to add our little gold packet. Add in some lead with that. 1, 2. We'll let that get up to temperature and we'll check on it a little bit. Well, now I'm going to take all of our panning tailings, all of the dust we made with our little crusher. I'm going to get it all wet. I'm going to mix it together, stir it with a paint stirrer so it's all gets moistened, wettened, and we'll run it on our shaker table to get the gold and all that yellow stuff out. All right, now we have a real nice slurry. We can add that right on the shaker table. And probably what I've done is I've mixed it so all the gold is right down at the bottom now. Well, a quick little overview here. Here's the 4x8 shaker table we're going to run the stuff on. The gold's going to come across here, up this first or second long groove, and under the water bar here, up on what we call the cleaning plane, and come down into the number 1 port. The sulfides, maybe some of that yellow heavy stuff that's not gold, will come into the number 2 port. There's a number 3 port middlings and a number 4 port tailings. And if this stuff wasn't so stinking rich, I would have just run it right through the hammer mill. But you can't really get that thing completely clean. I didn't want to hang up any of Jeff's gold in that hammer mill, so that's why we use that little grinder. But I got that blue bucket there. I'm going to feed it into this trough, and we'll run it down on the shaker table and see what we get. So yeah, I'm just going to scoop it out of there and dribble it along this distributor trough here. And there again, usually what happens when you mix this stuff with a paint stirrer is that all the gold goes down to the bottom, and so there's not a lot to see in the first half of the bucket here. But you can see yellow feeding down into the grooves. There's some of the yellow orange here that's starting to come across. I don't see any starting to make its way up across yet. But I just noticed that yellow coming down. It just all comes down and bloop right in that first trough. So it'll start working its way. Yeah, you can see some there. It's just working its way across. And you can see all the yellow up here. And I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but a lot of it now is orange. And I think that's that lead or tungsten mineral. Oh, yeah, we'll start all the way back over here. And just get everything coming this way. And there you go, you can start to see all that stuff separate out here, hopefully once it gets up onto the cleaning plane. Lots of gold up here at the leading edge. Working our way down, you can start to see the flakes now. Individual, and they're just working their way right down into the number one. Well, I'm a little bit at a loss of what to do with this stuff. I don't really know what that yellow stuff is. We got lots of gold in here I want to recover. So I say, when in doubt, let's smelt it down. Okay, we're going to pull out our panning button here. This is from the couple of handfuls I did. Nice button. But that's from the 1.5 handfuls. We'll see if we can watch it blick over. There we go. Nice little blick there. So let that cool down and we'll get it weighed. Here's our really nice looking little gold bead from the 1.5 handfuls we panned. Figure out what it weighs. A little less than 0.5 gram. 0.5 gram from 1.5 handfuls. But I would say based on the color there, it's gold, but it's not that nice yellow gold. It's probably in that 75, 80% range. Well, I'm going to throw all caution and science to the wind here. I'm just going to grab some borax, put it in the bottom. I'm going to take our our ball here, cut off all the extra we don't need. Problem is it's still pretty wet. But get all that out of there. That's just going to burn up. You've got, let's see what it looks like in there. There it is. So I'm going to dump that in this crucible. Oh, maybe I'll do this. I'll dump a little bit in, put some more borax in. I'll kind of mix it as I go here. Plop the whole thing in there. This is just bush league here. More borax on top. I believe, I would expect it's an oxide, so I'm going to add lots of borax. I may throw some soda ash on top. There should be plenty of gold in there to collect itself into a button at the bottom. All the oxides and all the junk should be absorbed by the borax when it melts. All right, well, let's see what we have here. Black looking slag. Kind of a brown tinge to it, actually. Let's see if we've got a little gold nugget here in the bottom. Ah. That is lead. So I'm trying to cool it off here with water so I can break it out of there. I wasn't expecting a bunch of lead because I didn't put any in, but I'm wondering if that yellow stuff is some sort of lead sulfide or lead oxide, actually. Well, we got our lead here. Let's figure out what it weighs. I don't know if it's my imagination, but this feels a lot heavier than it should be if it was just lead. $16.5 grams. So I'm going to add our lead bead right to the Q-towel. I'm not going to add any extra lead. And we'll check on it and see We'll see what it looks like here in a couple minutes, and if I need to add any lead, I can do so, but I think there's plenty of lead in that button. The lead has just started to oxidize, and the oxides are molten now. There's our nice little gold button from the stuff that I ground up, ran on the shaker table. I forgot to get the weight on camera, but that stuff weighed 32 pounds altogether. Cool it off. Whoop. But there she be, still a little bit hot. Ow. And it's not that super yellow color. It's definitely got some silver in it. But let's see what we got for a weight. 6.4 grams. Well, there you go, Jeff. There's 12 to 15 ounces of ton stuff. That's pretty darn good rock you got there. I think you got yourself a gold mine. But I wanted to say a special thanks to you for inviting me down. I had a blast getting down there, mining that gold. Met a lot of fun people, and I hope we can do it again sometime. So thanks again. And for anybody else out there, if you guys have any questions or comments, you can leave me a comment below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.